My dear friends, it's a joy to welcome you to this third session on the Introduction to Spirituality. In this session, we will begin to focus on the good stuff, especially focusing on the soul, the inner you, which is the third step in describing the purpose of spirituality. But first, a brief review of the first two sessions. In session one, we stated that spirituality focuses on the quality of your life, and especially your relationship to a higher power, which will be the subject of session 4. We also explained the difference between spirituality and religion, and then the need for a good teacher to put the seeker on a realistic and productive spiritual path. In session 2, we began to focus on the first two steps of spirituality. While the ultimate goal of spirituality is to bring heaven to earth, the first step in spirituality is to confront and release your old mental and emotional habits that no longer serve you. We called such habits baggage, and you can't take your baggage with you on the spiritual journey. The baggage needs to be released. The second step concerned relationships with others because, well, it's one thing to deal with your own self on the spiritual pathway, but it's quite another to deal with others, especially obviously in relationships. Relationships have a tendency to push one's buttons more than anything else, and they need to be integrated in one's spiritual pursuit, leaving behind the baggage, but also bringing with you the very important people who mean so much to you. With this brief review, we are now ready to take the third step in spirituality. It's where the good stuff begins, but also the good stuff brings with it challenges to expand your growth. The third step, in a nutshell, involves the inner you. Let's call it your soul. While relationships and old habits deal with much of the outer world, the soul deals with the inner world, the inner you. I first want to give a brief description of the soul, and then we'll focus on the three qualities of the soul, the three qualities of the inner you. First, a brief description of the soul. The soul, the inner you. The soul, the inner you, is the part of you that individuates, which simply means that the soul is the unique you. You are the one that is individuating from the inner you. While there are other more universal parts, the soul, by and large, pretty much focuses in simply on you. The spirit will be a common part we'll talk about at another time, but the soul is really all about you. Your soul directs your life. Your soul is the captain of your ship. Such an important thing to understand. The soul is uniquely you in how you individuate in your everyday reality. With this brief description of the soul, let's now consider the three basic qualities of the soul. Excuse me, you might say, but how do you contact the soul? And is the soul different from the mind? Two good points. How do you contact the soul? And is it different than the mind? A good teacher will help you to answer both questions. The good teacher will teach you that the beginning steps of meditation will help you very much to reach the soul, the inner you, by quieting both the body and the mind, and then clearly show you the difference between the soul and the mind, which we will talk about shortly. That's why it's important to have a good teacher to show you how to go within and then to guide you with what you will find in your soul. A good teacher is invaluable. May I suggest that you will find these three qualities as you go within to meet the you that is your soul. Again, the good teacher will show you how to do so and point out to you what you will find. Are you ready? It is exciting. So here we go. The first thing that you will find is that your soul, the inner you, is an observational platform. It's an observational platform. It's a place from which you can consciously observe your life. It's a place from which you can observe how you're doing in your worldly self, how you're doing in your family and relationships, how you're doing in your work, how you're doing in all of your involvements. It's a place where you can even observe your relationships and what needs perhaps worked on. It's a place where you can observe your body and again, observe what needs worked on. And most of all, it's a place where you can observe the thoughts of your mind and the feelings of your emotions. You can observe the thoughts in your mind and the feelings of your emotion. And again, coming to understand what needs to be released and what needs to be continued. Did you notice I said that you can observe the thoughts in your mind? You can observe your emotions, and your soul will determine what fits and what needs to be released. Your soul observes your mind and emotions and decides what stays and what goes. The notion of the soul as the observer of your mind and emotions cannot be overstressed. Your mind and your emotions do not run you. Your thoughts and your emotions do not run you. Your soul does. That is, your soul does run you when you learn to get beyond your mind and emotions, which is exactly what a good teacher will assist you to do. This observational platform, often called the observer self, is that part of your soul that enables you to take a step back from your immediate situation and see how things are going. This ability to step back and observe was beautifully presented in the works of Eckhart Tolle, especially in his book, The Power of Now. But it is also readily observed in these two experiences that you probably have had. First, how many times have you stepped back and said, I can't believe that this is happening to me. Can't believe this is happening to me. Well, who's the you that can step back and can't believe that this something is happening? And who's the you to whom it is happening? The you that is stepping back and can't believe it is happening is your soul. And the you to whom it is happening is your worldly self. Such an important distinction to make. The second statement. Have you ever said, I had a good talk with myself? I had a good talk with myself. Well, if you have, Who did the talking and who did the listening? The soul was the one that stepped back and did the talking, and your worldly self did the listening. And the soul was really what was giving the guidance. The soul was the talker. To you, your worldly self, the listener. Again, such an important distinction to make. Thus, the first characteristic of the soul is that it is an observational platform. What is it observing? You. The soul is observing yourself. It is observing the unique life that is living through your worldly self. It's observing you. We are now ready for the second aspect of the soul. Let me begin with a brief comment and then move to the second aspect. The brief comment is that people often describe themselves and others in this way, that they are a work in progress, that they are a work in progress. Now, did you ever ask yourself, why are you a work in progress? Why are you a work in progress? The second aspect of the soul is the answer. You are a work in progress because the soul is not just an observational platform, but also the soul is free. Freedom is the second quality of the soul. Let's look at this situation of freedom more closely. By freedom, we simply mean that the soul, the inner you, not the mind, but the soul, the inner you, is free to create whatever it desires, even when it might choose to create from lower energies of fear and doubt. The fact of the freedom of the soul can be stated in these words: you are creating your reality by the choices you make. Let me just say it again. You are creating your reality freely by the choices you are freely making. More fully, you are creating your reality by the energies that you are drawing to you. If you are drawing energies of fear and worry to you, you'll create the energies of fear and worry. If you are drawing to you the higher energies of kindness and success, you will create in these more beautiful energies. However you state it, the simple fact is that you are creating your reality by the choices you make. There's no one to blame. There's no one yanking your chain. You are in charge of you. If you decide to give your power to another, that's still your choice. You are still in charge of having given away your power. Life is not happening to you. You are making life happen by the choices you make. It's as simple as that. The good teacher will further explain that you are creating your life by your choices, especially explaining how the law of karma fits into those choices. Most of you know the law of karma, which simply states, whatever you sow, you will also reap. So low energy and actions, they'll come back to you. So higher energy thought and actions, they too will come back to you. In short, again, You are creating your daily and your future reality by the choices you are freely making. Freedom, the second quality of the soul. You might be saying to yourself now, well, how does the soul know what to choose? It's a good question. Is there a guide for the soul? This notion of a guide to the soul raises the importance of the third quality of the soul. The third quality of the soul is that the soul is a place of guidance if the soul is a place of guidance if you are able to listen how the soul can guide you. The soul, the individuating part of you, does have an internal guide to give it direction. This internal guide we call spirit. This internal guide is what we call spirit. And by spirit, what we mean is it is the universal set of principles and actions which guide the soul when it listens. Again, spirit, the universal set of principles and values, can guide the soul when it listens. When the soul becomes quiet and can hear the voice of the spirit from within. When the soul receives guidance from the spirit, we call it intuition. We call it intuition. Intuition is that prompting from the spirit that says to the soul, this is the right thing to do. Your soul is guided by intuition. The spirit speaks when you listen, giving direction. In this regard, two things become important. First, well, you can choose not to listen to the spirit. You can choose not to listen, thus allowing your worldly self to be your guide. This is what happens to many people. They don't hear the voice of the spirit within because either they aren't listening to it or because they don't know how to listen. Which brings me to the second point. The good teacher will show you how to listen to the guidance of the spirit. Such an important thing. The good teacher will show you how to relax your body and calm your mind and learn to allow your soul to listen to the universal spirit, which some people call the Holy Spirit. This function of listening to the spirit is the most important thing that a good teacher will assist the seeker to learn. It is the most important thing that the seeker learns to understand how the spirit guides its soul. A third point, have you ever said to yourself, well, no, it just came out of the blue. You all of a sudden had this great idea that didn't seem to come from you. So you say, well, it came out of the blue. The blue is the spirit. The blue is the spirit. The spirit, that universal set of principles and values that guides all of life, especially those who are now willing to listen. It's quite a Holy Spirit that you have when you listen. In conclusion, the three qualities of the soul that we have explained in this third lesson are that, first, the soul is an observational platform to look around from. It's observing you. Secondly, the soul is your source of freedom from which you create the reality of your life. And thirdly, the soul receives its guidance from the universal spirit when and if the soul is willing to listen. In session 4, the last session in this introduction to spirituality, we will examine the larger universal energy of which you are a part and the role you play in it. Namaste. The good in me sees the good in you.